Guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. It's me, it's I, Cha. So guys, today's topic we're going to be talking about adulthood. Can we be honest for a minute? I feel like nobody really prepares you for what becoming an adult can actually feels like. When we were younger, we thought that adulthood was going to be a straightforward process. You grow up, you finish school, you get a job, you start making money, you become independent, maybe get married, have children, buy a house, and somehow you have all your life stuff figured out. But when you actually become an adult and you're like, wait, is this it? Because why does nobody tell you that you can be an adult, be responsible, be working, be trying to figure out your life, trying your best, and you're asking yourself, what is going on? Then you become an adult and you're like, what is this? Because why does nobody tell you that you can be an adult, be responsible, be working, be trying your best, and still feel like you have absolutely no idea what you are doing? That is the part of adulthood I want to talk about today, because I feel like there are so many things we experience as adults that nobody really talks about, or nobody rather really prepares us for. I think that one of the biggest shock of adulthood is realizing that there is no point where somebody comes to congratulate you and say, finally, you figured life out. Nobody. It doesn't happen like that. You just wake up and one day realize that you're responsible for your own decisions, your character, or your careers, your money, your relationships, your future. And sometimes you are making all these decisions while secretly hoping that you are making the right choice. And that can be very funny. When we were younger, we look at adults and think that they know everything. You think that your parents know exactly what they are doing. You think that people in their 30s have everything figured out. You think that people who have good jobs have their finances figured out. You think that people who are married have their relationships completely figured out. And then you grow up and realize that we were all just learning and we were all just going on with life. Some people are just better at looking like they know that they are figuring this thing out. And honestly, I think that sometimes we need to talk more about comparing ourselves with someone else. Some people are secretly trying to figure things out without you knowing this. Another thing that nobody prepares you for in adulthood is how much you are going to question your timeline. When we were younger, you have this picture in your head. You think that by this age, I have, I must have this figured out. At this age, I must be doing that. At this age, I must be married. At this age, I will be financially comfortable. And then you get to that age and your life doesn't look like anything that you've pictured or created at that your young age. And that's when the comparison starts. You open social media and somebody is getting married. You open social media and somebody is buying a house. Somebody is traveling. Somebody is starting a business. Somebody is getting promoted. Somebody is having a baby. And then you feel that you're useless. And you're just sitting there like thinking, what am I doing with my life? But I have been learning something of late. Life isn't a race where everyone is supposed to arrive at the same time or at a destination. Life is just funny. Just because somebody is ahead of you in one area doesn't mean that you're behind in life. Maybe your journey just seems to be different. Another thing I also like us to talk about adulthood is friendship. Nobody prepares us about the change in friendship. When we were younger, friendship is so easy. You see someone every day, you talk to them every day, you hang out, you make memories. But as you grow older, everyone starts to have different responsibilities, different jobs, different relationships, different priorities, different goals. And sometimes people you thought that will be in your life forever slowly becomes people you barely talk to. And that can actually hurt because you start wondering, What happened? Did I do something wrong? Why aren't we as close as we were anymore? But sometimes nobody did anything wrong. That's the funny thing. Sometimes people just grow in different ways, different directions. And I think adulthood teaches you that not every friendship is meant to last forever. Some people are meant to be part of your life or part of the chapter of your life. And when those chapter ends, it doesn't mean that the friendship wasn't real. It just means that life changed. Another thing I would love us to talk about is money. Nothing prepared us about the bills that comes with adulthood. Because honestly, nobody prepared me for how expensive adulthood is. You start making money and then you suddenly realize, wait, everything costs money. Food, transportation, bills, family responsibilities, savings, investing, taking care of yourself, trying to enjoy life, trying to prepare for the future. Everything. And I think that when you start understanding that making money and actually being financially comfortable are two completely different things. You can have a salary and still have responsibilities, waiting for that salary before it even enters your account. And sometimes you're trying to build your own future while also trying to take care of other people. And I don't always see that part. They just see you and they think that you are working and you're fine. But sometimes you're working and still trying to figure out how to make everything work. And I think that's another part of adulthood we don't actually talk about enough. But I think that one of the deepest parts of becoming an adult is actually getting to know yourself. Because when we were younger, so many of our decisions are influenced by other people, your parents, your friends, society, school, social media. And then eventually you start asking yourself, okay, but what did I actually want? Like, what do I actually want? Not what looks like successful, not what everyone else is doing, not what people expect from you. What do I actually want? And sometimes that question can be scary because you might realize that the life you thought you wanted isn't actually the life you want anymore. Maybe the career that you thought you wanted doesn't make you happy anymore. Maybe the things that you used to care about don't matter to you anymore. Maybe you want something different, something completely different. And then you start thinking, have I wasted my time? But what I know is that you haven't wasted your time. I think you are learning yourself. And sometimes growing up means changing directions. And then there is probably one of the hardest parts of, I don't think we actually talk about this enough. Adulthood can be lonely. And I'm not necessarily talking about having people around or having friends or having your families. You can actually have people that you love, that loves you and like still cares about you. And you have to feel this kind of loneliness because some decisions are not yours to make. You can ask people for advice. You can talk to parents. You can talk to your friends. But at the end of the day, you have to live with your own decision. You have to decide what career you want. You have to decide what relationships you want. You have to decide what kind of life you want to build. And sometimes nobody can make those decisions for you. That is a very different kind of responsibility. And I think that's why adulthood can sometimes feel overwhelming and lonely. And eventually, I think you start realizing that life isn't supposed to be perfect. Life is not supposed to be perfectly figured out. There's going to be seasons where where you are really doing well, and there are going to be seasons where you're just surviving. And there are going to be seasons too where you aren't confident in yourself, you aren't confident, and you just start questioning yourself. There are going to be times when everything seems to be moving forward, and sometimes when it feels that nothing is happening. And maybe that's okay to have a perfect life instead of just trying to build a meaningful one. So if there is one thing I'm learning about becoming an adult, is this. You don't have to have everything figured out. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to have your time. You are allowed to look at your life and say, this isn't working for me anymore, and make a change. You are allowed to be proud of how far you have come while still wanting more for yourself. And you are allowed to be figuring things out because maybe that's what adulthood is really that's what actually adulthood is really about. Maybe adulthood isn't the point where you finally have all the answers. Maybe it's a process of constantly discovering who you are. So yeah, I think that's the part of becoming an adult that nobody really talks about. Everybody talks about getting a job, making money, getting married, having children, building a career, becoming independent. But nobody really talks about the emotional side of it, the uncertainty, the comparison, the change in friendships, the pressure, the loneliness, the self-discovery, and learning that you don't actually have the entire life figured out. So I would like to hear from you in the comment section. What's becoming an adult that nobody prepared you for? It could be anything. Maybe it's just realizing that nobody actually knows exactly what they are doing. So tell me in the comment section, because honestly, I think somebody reading this your comments might realize that they are not the only person feeling that way or feeling depressed. So thank you all for sitting down with me in this conversation. And if you enjoyed this conversation, I will see you in my next one. Bye.